When you're ready to export your walker, there are two very important things that you need to note. In order to animate your walker in CoSpaces, it's very important that you export your model oriented in the right direction. At the moment, if I was to export my model like this, it would look in CoSpaces as if it was going sideways. So to make sure we orient it in the right direction, you need to remember that if we click on this, the top of the work plane here, the opposite side to the word work plane, is the front. So we need to turn our object. So I'm going to collect everything here and I'm going to rotate it through 90 degrees. So we need to make sure that the bow is pointing to the front, and you need to make sure that you've got it oriented in the middle of the whole work plane. Along this central axis here, so that when you attach the object to a path, it's going to move in a realistic way. So now that we've all oriented our walker in the right direction with the bow pointing to the top or the forward part of the work plane, we can now get ready to export it. So to do that, we simply click on export and we export it as an OBJ file. If you export it as an STL file, that's ready for 3D printing, but CoSpaces requires it as an OBJ file, and it will download as a zip file, and you need to extract that file. So if I just click on this, you'll see that it's previous ones I've done here have downloaded as a zip file. And so once I've opened my downloads, Ocean Walker here, what I do is I would right click on this, I click open, and it would extract for me, and you can see here that it's called Tinker Object, and I recommend that you rename as Walker for CoSpaces or something like that. I've logged into my CoSpaces account here, and I'm going to click on the CoSpaces option here. Here, and then I'm going to create a CoSpace, and I want to create an empty scene, so I'm going to click on this, and once it loads up, you've got this empty space with nothing in it except a camera. Now the camera is a very important part of what we're about to do. So the first thing we need to do is build our environment, and the environment we want to build is an ocean environment. So I'm going to click on the library down the bottom left hand corner here, and I'm going to click on environment, and I'm going to click on edit, and I'm going to click on ocean. And so now I've got this ocean I can play with, and we can zoom out, and you can see how big our ocean space is. The grey square is the size of the ocean that we've got to play with, so I recommend that we set something up in one corner and travel around a long path in this space. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go back to library, and I want to click on nature. Now depending on what kind of account you've got, I've got the full account. I want to click on other, and I'm going to terraform. So I've got some island options here, so I'm just going to drag some islands in. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm just going to resize this. So I'm going to make my islands to scale. Obviously the smaller they are, the bigger the distances are going to seem to be between islands. So I'm just going to add another island, and this is my destination. So I'm going to add this somewhere over here. I'm going to do a bit of terraforming, so make my island slightly different and put them together like this. I might add some rocks in the ocean just as waypoints or way markers for our walker's journey, and you can use the scale tool here to make them bigger or smaller. This obviously I think is way too big, so I'll make that smaller, and I'm going to create a path that's going to navigate its way all around these objects. But the next thing I need to do is I need to upload our walker to this scene. So now it's time to upload my walker, so I'm going to click on upload, and I want to make sure I'm selecting 3D models, and I'm going to click on upload, and I'm going to search for my object. So here it is. So now we've got this Waka model uploaded. Now unfortunately none of the colours you just get a white model, so I'm going to just drag this into the space that I want, and you can see that my Waka is massively over scale, and that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our destination island. I'm going to move the camera here, but let's just move the space around so we can see what's going on. Our Waka is clearly way too big for our ocean at the moment, so we want to scale it to that island, so we can use those scale tools. So we're going to obviously make it very much smaller, and we can zoom in, and I'm going to just move it towards the island. We can tweak it all this stuff later, but basically let's make it a bit smaller again, I think, because I can make the journey more epic. That's good. So let's zoom into that. So we've got the model into the space. We've now got to work out a way to get our Waka from our home island around these little atolls, rocks and outcrops to this brand new island. And for that we need to do some coding. I've oriented myself so I can see the Waka and the camera, and we'll associate those in a moment. But the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that CoSpaces realizes that our 3D model is something that we want to animate. So I'm going to select the Waka, I'm going to right click, I'm going to click on code and make sure that using code blocks is turned on, and at this stage you can rename it. I'm just going to call it Waka now, and that object is now ready to move inside our environment we've created. I don't need to do any of the island blocks because they're not going to animate, they just sit there, they're just part of the background. But anything that you want to animate or control with code, you need to make sure they're added. So if I click on the camera here and right click, I need to make sure I want to use it in code blocks as well. So it's just called camera. So these two things are very important. We're going to link those two together. But what I want the Waka to do now is I want it to travel on a path, and I want the path to wind its way around the rocky outcrops that we've created and all the way to the other island. But I'm going to create several paths so it can stop, and then you can add information, and I'll show you how to do that later, and it will just jump onto another path and all the way around to the other island. So to do that we need to click on library, and we need to come to special, and we're going to use a straight path. So I'm just going to drag this path into this environment here, click here to get rid of this, and we can look at this path, and if you look, the chevrons are pointing towards us. That's the direction of travel. So this is the start of the path, and this is the end of the path. I need to move it. Oops. And so what I want to do is I want to just work my way out to here. Click on this one, my island a bit closer. So we need to do the same thing. We need to right click on this. I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call it first path. It's a straight path, yes I know. Because that will just help us organize which path we want things to work on. I want to make sure it's in CoSpaces. It is, yes, using code blocks. But I also want to edit it. So I'm going to click on edit here, and that will allow me to add some nodes along the way, which two will be fine, which will allow me to create a more interesting path. So let's just go back into here again, and this time I want to click on path, and I want not to be straight, I want it to be curved. So I'm going to click on this. You can change the width, it makes it easier for you to see and grab if you want to, but I'm going to click on curved and close this. Now we're done. So I'm going to click on this, and so what I can do now is I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to have a good idea of where I want to go. So I want to just kind of get to about here, I think, but I want my, nobody sails across the ocean in a straight line. So I want to just add an interesting path, but I want the camera to see the rocks that we get to. So I'm just going to make that go there like that, and I'm going to, I don't know why the camera moved, but I want to move that back to there. And so now what I want to do is attach our Waka to the path. To attach our walker to this path, we have to select the walker, right click, and then we click the attach option, and anything that is available to be attached to will show up with some marker points. So we can see here along the pathway, and indeed all the island, you've got these blue marks on them, and I'm going to select the mark that I want the walker to attach to, which is the first one here. So click on this, and it's now centered it and put the walker pointing in the wrong direction. So I need to make sure that I want to turn my walker around, and that is my walker now attached to this path. And now we're ready to code our walker moving along this pathway. But before we do that, I just want to add one more path so that we've got all the bits and pieces that we have required to do our coding. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add another short path between these two islands. But as you've already seen me do that, we won't put that in part of this video, but I will call that second path.